homepage. I just have city council meetings.
Oh, and it goes right to that place on the website?
But it goes to this page.
Okay, and then you go to the date.
Study meeting, agenda.
Okay, yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's I don't need a password either.
No
I don't have to update, because that was my problem.
That makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, every time you said, hey, update, re-download.
You're like, I don't need to.
It's already done. That's brilliant.
I'll look into it. Thank you.
All right, we'd like to welcome everyone and call to order the study meeting of the West Valley City Council this February 24th, 2026. We're beginning our meeting at 4:31 p.m. in the multipurpose room of West Valley City Hall. We have all members of the council present. We have Councilman Hume online. We have Councilmember Norfelt, Councilmember Wood, Councilmember Whetstone is online, Councilmember Herman, Councilmember Christensen, myself. We're also joined at the table with our city manager, Mr. Peely, and our city recorder, Ms. Kamek. We have our minutes of February 10th, 2026. Turn those to the council for motion or discussion.
Motion to approve the minutes of February 10th.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those stand. I didn't hear anything on there, but we'll just assume nothing is yes.
Assume everything's good.
Okay. So those stand approved. We'll go to review of our regular meeting this evening. Was there any adjustments or changes?
No, ma'am.
Okay, are there any questions from the council? Okay, seeing none, we'll turn the time over to Ms. Kamek for award ceremonies and proclamations.
You may remember last year we recognized a student who received the National Merit Scholar from American Preparatory Academy. Another student from American Preparatory Academy has received that recognition as well. The city's only National Merit Scholar this year, meaning that they scored in the top 1% of high school seniors on the SAT. Only approximately 15,000 students receive that, which is less than 1% of all the students in the country. And also, Jimmy actually received a perfect score of 36 on his ACT as well. So
That kid's picking his
Yeah.
college.
yeah, and that is extremely rare, and fewer than 0.4% of all ACT takers receive that. So pretty
That's
awesome. So we'll just be recognizing him. Yeah, he'll be here next week.
Or in 2 weeks.
March 10th.
What, yeah, whatever the day is.
Is there someone that would want to read his write-up? Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
That's cool.
his teacher sent me a nice write-up.
Where did he go?
American Prep. Yep.
Yeah. I went over on Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah. The perfect score is crazy.
That is real crazy.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll go to our public hearings and we'll begin with application Z10 2025. And we'll turn the time over to Mr. Pastrick.
So we have this first item is a zone change on just one parcel. It's 7020 west, 7100 south. You can see that line in red here. It's just barely shy of, a little shy of 1 acre. Zoom in here. So there's a home that's built on the property here on the west side. Fairly new, built in 2019. You can see on the west, north, and east sides, it's all single-family detached homes. And then to the south, we have senior condos or restricted condos on the south side of the street. So the zoning on this one currently is the A zone. The property owner is requesting to change that to the R120 zone. So as a reminder, the A zone requires at least a half acre, and where this is just barely short of 1 acre, they do need to rezone it to be able to split it. So the intent here is, you can see where the fence line is on the property, and it's right in the middle of this north to south. Their intent is to be able to subdivide, so they're going to property. And so in order to do that, they do need their own trade zoning to do that. Here's just a map showing the zoning in the vicinity. So you've got R1 8, R1 10 to the south. And then the A zoning that surrounds this on these three sides, that project is actually a PUD, so those lots are more in the 11,000 to 13,000 square foot range. So if this lot gets split, then the two lots that would be the result would actually be larger than what's immediately around it.
Steve, so Sugar Plum is a PUD. It's still zoned A, but it's
Correct.
PUD for the smaller.
That's right.
Okay.
Here's just a plat map that shows the dimensions. Sorry, I know that's really small. Just some pictures. So this is looking at the portion that's not developed. So right now there's just a fence around the east portion of the lot. Here's the home that's on the west portion. So then newer home here. This is looking more toward the northwest. You see the homes just to the west are in Sugar Plum development. This is looking east along 3100 South. The condos are there on the right-hand side. This is looking back west, so again, the condos now on the left side and the homes on the right side. And then finally, one of the things that was addressed in the development agreement was looking into this, that the owner of the property did construct some detached structures in the back of the existing home without a permit. And so one of the provisions we put in the development agreement is that these structures would be permitted before we issue a permit on the new house or the new lot. So it's not that these structures couldn't be there, it's just they didn't get them. So they're just for storage type structures. So again, there is with this a development agreement where the applicant has proposed some standards for the new home, 2,500 square feet, 3-car garage, and some other features. But that pretty well summarizes this application.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Pastrick?
So back to that, it shows the undeveloped lot with the fence.
Yes.
It looks like there's a structure on it. The one right there.
So there's not.
What's that?
Overview.
Oh, it's the lot behind. Wow, that's a big structure. And the same with that small black roof there.
There's a line going into the size.
Okay.
And this overhead picture has a car and something else, but
Yeah.
But if you look kind of to the east and north a little bit, that has a big structure behind it, one of those houses. So I think that's what you're saying.
Okay, it's it's an
Yeah.
optical illusion there. Okay. Thank you.
And are they thinking the house is going to be similar to theirs, or they don't really have a plan for the front of the house?
At this point, they don't have specific plans for it.
Okay.
It's actually so what they described to me is their daughters want to live with this property right next door.
Okay.
So they committed to some standards, but don't have a specific look at this point.
Well, I've driven past that house a lot. It is a gorgeous house.
It's really
I've always liked it. Okay, I don't see any other questions. Are there any online? No, ma'am. Okay. All right. Thank you.
So,
And then we'll go to,
The applicant wanted his.
oh yeah, is the applicant here? Okay. So application GPZ 1/2026.
this is by Chris Grant with Wasatch Capital and Acquisitions. And this involves just over 26 acres of property at 5035 West Lake Park Boulevard, and then also 2736 South Oak Park Drive. So the request here is first to amend the general plan from medium density residential to high density residential, and change the zone to the use zone. So we'll jump right in here. So this area in red outlines the property in question. So just to again orient everyone, you have Glen Park Boulevard here running east and west, Grove Park Drive, which transitions to 4800 West. You have the Monticello Academy here, Neil Armstrong Academy, which is here to the west. And then you have the Lake Park Purple Center with the Verizon building here, just again for reference. And then an existing single-family neighborhood here in the hybrid development to the south and west. And again, just zoomed in here, the property is entirely vacant. This just shows zoning. So again, the yellow is the R18 zone. We have agricultural zoning to the north and a portion of the south. The blue in Lake Park is the Business Research Park zoning. So we provided this map here just as a reference, and just to kind of give you an idea, I think most are familiar here with what uses exist. So this, on the right-hand side, you have Bangor Highway. On the left-hand side, you have 5600 West. So the green is the golf course. The blue would be office buildings, which, as you know, many of those are now transitioning to more kind of research and development for medical type uses. Then you have the yellow as single family. The orange would be, the darker orange would be apartment buildings. You have here to the west, and then kind of the lighter orange would be townhome developments. The red is commercial, where you have, for example, Target, Kohl's down in here. There's also a few hotel uses, kind of this darker red color here and here, but also in Lake Park. The purple being industrial to the north. So just you can see the bigger picture between Highbury, which is generally considered west of Lake Park, the golf courses is here, and then the Lake Park here, a variety of uses between those two projects. And again, just for context, this area right here is the 26 acres we're talking about is right here. So there's a bit of history on this, and so apologies, this is a little longer intro than most. So clear back in 2008, when this property was first zoned, R18, there was a proposal by Ivory Development at the time, and Ivory's proposal included not just this property, but the subdivision that did get built to the south was Wilson Townhomes. So,
And wasn't the property to the north as well?
that was not.
It was not parted in that? Okay.
So go back to this. It was what I ended up developing was there's this townhome development, this one, all of these single family homes, and the development agreement included this, but then they never executed that or moved it.
Okay.
So at the time, this proposal here included was 89 what they call parkside homes, which are these, it was meant to be kind of small lot, single family detached with garages in the rear, sort of alley access, and then you had 69 townhomes. Again, that never got built, but that's what was approved in the development agreement.
How many units total?
There were a total of 158 units at that time. Then we had an application in 2023 by Wasatch for a mix of townhomes, apartments, and surf pool concept that was to be open to the public. That proposal went to Planning Commission a couple of times, but ultimately the Planning Commission recommended denial. The applicant at the time did not pursue going to council, just essentially withdrew the application, so that never made it to council. And in 2024, this proposal was shown, and so you have, in this concept, you have these apartment buildings here along the north and east sides of the property. You had a condo, short-term rental over here. This was the surf pool, but in this proposal, it was more of a members only, it wasn't open to the public. More apartments here, rental townhomes, and then for sale. Once again, went to Planning Commission. Planning Commission recommended denial of this, and they withdrew and never went to City Council. So now to this concept, which this one was reviewed by Planning Commission, and they did, at least the majority of the Planning Commission ultimately recommended approval of this with some changes, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. So to explain what we're looking at here, we have 5 apartment buildings on the north and east side of the property. Those would be 4-story buildings, and you have renderings of those buildings. Then you have 1 5-story building here. And really the main difference between this building here and these is that you have essentially like the leasing office and the amenities on the ground floor of that one. Otherwise, it looks very similar to the other buildings. You also have 4 rent townhomes here out in red, 4 sell townhomes here out in blue, and then single-family homes. It would be along Red Ridge and Sandwell here. One thing that the Planning Commission recommended, and the applicant agreed to, is that in this proposal, so numbers-wise, you have 16 single-family homes along the south side. Originally, there were 36 for-sale townhomes here and 84 rent townhomes, and then a total of 236 apartments. In the Planning Commission's motion, they asked that at least half of the 4 rent townhomes would be transitioned to for-sale townhomes. So that's what's in the development agreement, 76 for-sale townhomes and 40 for rent townhomes. So the end result is going to be approved is the concept plan would change in that the mix of for-sale and for-rent townhomes would be different than what's shown in this case, based on the Planning Commission's recommendation. And then you see just maybe a couple of things I'll also highlight here is that you do have a clubhouse, a smaller pool, a large pool here at the golf course. One of the things that the applicant agreed to, and even feedback from the residents, was the concern about the pickleball courts maybe being too close to the neighborhood. So the agreement mentions shifting those more so that they're more central to the project and just in terms of noise and away from the homes. There's also the agreement language about these townhomes being set back at least 35 feet from these homes here. And there's many provisions in the development agreement trying to get on some of the ones that were discussed by Planning Commission. Another thing, originally there was the idea of having a walkway here between Sandville and the Shelby County. And the concern we raised to staff is we already know that the charter schools pick up and drop up was not exactly
Ideal.
Ideal. So the worry is that if you put in a walkway, and we've seen this in other areas, people to avoid the traffic on Coastal Park Drive, they would drive in the neighborhood to draw a stack. So we basically said we don't want a walkway here for that reason. So that was one of the things that came up in the Planning Commission as well. And we can come back to this. Those are some of the discussion points that came up with the Planning Commission. These images help show just again the bird's eye view perspective. So you have this is Lake Park Boulevard here, Corporate Park Drive. This is the 4-story apartments here on the perimeter, the 5-story building, the pool, the rental townhomes, 4-sale townhomes, and then this green area here represents the building single-family homes along the south side. Just if I go back for a minute, I want to point out a couple more things for context. So when we're talking about this 26 acres here, Wasatch also owns this roughly 13 acres here. They actually have submitted an application to subdivide this property to 8,000 square foot lot. So originally, their proposal back in 24 was to do a PUD on this for some smaller lots. They've since decided to just move ahead with just 8,000 square foot lots, which is currently zoned for that, and so they're pursuing that. Also, they're working on this piece to the south, this being the RA zones. That's already been through the planning commission. So we anticipate this property that wraps around the charter school will be coming into council for rezone to the RA zone. So just again for context, a lot of moving parts with this.
Steve, can you go back to that?
Of course.
So those parcels are all gray, but maybe they would be better off if they were yellow to show R18 or RE.
Yeah, so sorry, that I should clarify. So this is showing current land use, and so
Yeah.
gray being vacant.
Yeah.
But yeah, zoning wise, this one's R18, this one's actually zoned agricultural currently, but they're requesting the RE zone to do single family on this piece.
Thank you.
Here's another one, just again to orient everyone. So you have Lake Park Boulevard here, Corporate Park drives out in the distance. The apartments along the east and north sides, full rent, for sale townhomes here, full rent here, and then the row of homes along the south side. I mentioned earlier, so this is 13 acres to the west. So this, again, they're just doing R18 subdivision, public streets, just straight up subdivision. And that has gone to planning commission.
Steve,
Yes.
apologies. If you wouldn't mind just speaking a little bit more into the mic. Some of the online folks are having a bit of a hard time. Sorry.
That vague voice. So now looking at the actual specific product. So the 4-story units, these are renderings of the 4-story buildings that would be on the north and east sides of the property. So these would have elevators. And just a few other views of those. This would be the 5-story building. So I mentioned, you'll notice the ground floor has lots of windows. So that's where you would have like the fitness room, the leasing office, the indoor amenities would be on the ground floor of this building. In the townhome, so there's several slides here that shows 4, 5, 6 unit configuration. So the backs, you have 5 units, 6. So for the single family homes, they also have some standards in terms of size, 3-car garage. The pictures here give some, basically some concepts of what those homes could look like. Again, these would be for the homes on the south edge. It would be across the street from the existing neighborhood. So now some pictures. This is looking, and you can tell these were taken in summer, not recently. So this is looking south from Lake Park Boulevard. We have an existing access point. This is looking north from Lake Park. So out in the distance, you can see the industrial buildings there. So this is more on the west end of the property where you have the waterway. It's kind of along the western boundary, and then there's the existing trails that are in this area. Another view of the waterway there. The Neil Armstrong School. We shot the waterway from Brett Bridge, looking more to the northeast. This is on Red Bridge, so looking southeast as your the property in question would be on the left here. And then looking east, so the property here on the left, existing neighborhood on the right. This is the last image here, looking west on the San Diego, so again, existing neighborhood on the left, and then the property in question on the right. So in your packet, there is a development proposal, and in that there's got a few standards. I'm just going to flip to that. So there's a section that deals with the development overall. So there's a cap on the number of units. There's language about parking. There's also language about the overall, what I'll call placement. So at this stage, we don't have engineering. it's a concept, but the idea is that you would have the row of single-family homes, townhomes, and then apartments. So the idea is sort of this layering idea, so you move the density further away from the existing neighborhood. So that's addressed. That it would basically just be residential use. Earlier proposals the Planning Commission saw included some commercial use. This would just be residential. Another thing that's addressed is the Planning Commission was concerned that, and I think the neighborhood as well, they didn't want to have traffic from the apartments cutting, going south through the neighborhood. So they wanted to direct all of that traffic to Lake Park and Corporate Park Drive. So basically, the only thing that would access Red Ridge would be, or Sandwood, would be the new homes, the new single-family homes with the 4 set of townhomes. Everything else would be essentially blocked from, whether that's through landscaping or buildings. You wouldn't be able to cut through that direction. So that, again, that was another sticking point, I think, for Planning Commission in the neighborhood. There's a section on single-family homes in terms of the number, the size, some of the design features, materials. Same for the townhomes. Kind of, again, the mix of rental versus for sale, unit sizes, design features, materials. Same for the apartments, unit sizes, materials, design. Amenities, there's a section about the amount of open space, a long list of amenities that would be provided. If I can get into more detail if desired. Language about the pickleball courts being separated from the existing neighborhood. One thing I didn't mention, I should go back to here, is go back to the concept plan. Sorry, it's a little bit buried. So as I mentioned earlier, drop-off and pick-off is, what was the word we used, difficult, challenging?
Not ideal.
Not ideal. It's Monticello Academy. One of the things that they're proposing here that would require further coordination with the school and Public Works is to extend the driveway in front of the school onto their property. And the idea was to simply increase the parking and the stacking areas, so with the hope of maybe taking some of that traffic off the street. There's not been, at this point, a final approval from either the school or Public Works. And so while this is addressed in the development agreement, it is worded such that if for whatever reason this doesn't work out either for the school or for the city, then that would just be landscaping, meaning that this area here would just be landscape. So it's put in as an option if that can be worked out, but if not, then it would just revert to landscaping.
Steve, when I drive by there in the afternoons, the car stacking goes from Monticello. It would cover the east entrance and go all the way around and cover the north entrance. So both their entrances currently would be covered.
Right. And so with the accesses, of course, that would be a parking enforcement thing, right? We have to.
We haven't chosen to do that now, so.
And they did put a crosswalk so parents could park across the street to the east of the school, but people really aren't using it a lot. And then Verizon blocked off their entrances so parents can't go in there and pick up their kids either. So it really does stack almost 90% of the time all the way back to that roundabout by Neil Armstrong.
Really?
We had residents that expressed, they were concerned about the traffic and the stacking, again, largely from the school.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, there's really only one functional lane when it's drop off and pick up.
Mm-hmm.
And so for that much traffic to be on there, I don't see it working. So
Are all the roads, private roads then in this development?
Glad you asked that. So these two streets here are existing public streets, so those would stay, they would access those. For the for sale townhomes, they are hoping to do, and this was in the development, do private streets because they'd like this to be gated. And really, there's not a way to do a gated public street. It has to be open. Now, with that said, I think it would be possible, if that was a sticking point of council, it would be possible to redesign this, at least for the for sale townhomes, to have a public street. Now, for rental product, we don't consider those private streets. It's just essentially all one parcel, right? So there's no association. It's just all a driveway that's all maintained properly.
So I have several questions. Sure. First off, what is the reasoning by having the for rent townhomes behind the single family homes and the for sale out on the road? Did they have a reason for doing that?
So I can let the applicant give me one detail. My understanding is they wanted the for sale townhomes to be accessing the existing neighborhoods, right? So these are the homes here. So the for rent, in terms of flow, the for rent product would be accessing Corporate Park Drive and Lake Park. But then the way it's drafted right now, the for sale townhomes would be the only thing that accesses this existing street. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like that. I don't like the for rent behind the single family homes. I don't know. I don't like that. And how many stories in those for rent? Are they
So
4-story?
They're three. So
They're three?
The townhomes would be 3-story.
Looking down into the single family home.
The one thing I would point out here too, and it's a little bit hard to see from the pictures, is that this site, so from Sandoval Drive, which is here, as you move north, the site falls about 8 feet. And so basically you're almost a whole level lower at this, kind of in this area than you are at the street. So at least I think in some ways that helps somewhat, but I just wanted to point that out.
And then all the apartments around the perimeter are 4-story, and the one in the middle is 5-story.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't like that. If I want to be blunt there. And then the single family homes, I like that. I like that it's tying into Highbury. Did you have a lot of Highbury people come in and comment during Planning Commission?
We did. So we had quite a few folks that showed up, and again, it's the commentary, a wide variety of things. Right? There's a lot of comments about traffic, about the height of buildings, desire for more single-family homes. Again, and in your packet, there's actually a number of emails from folks, and we included those as well.
Yeah.
It was somewhat mixed. We had at least one letter where a representative from the HOA mentioned that they felt like this sort of hit at some of their concerns, while others still had concerns. So it was mixed.
Yeah. And then that larger pool, is it really a swimming pool?
Yes.
Interesting. And then, of course, the traffic. It's just horrendous down there anyway. And adding this many people down there is just going to make it more horrendous. Those are my thoughts.
Ready for mine? So when this was first designed, there were be right behind Cole's townhomes, and then you had the apartments in there. Yeah, and truly, the whole concept was these smaller homes would be a good fit with the townhomes, and then across the street north. And this is when it was owned not by Ivory, but this was the concept that was given to the council to approve the whole development. And so then they were the large residential estates across the street to the north. So you had a better flow. Well, Ivory kind of did us dirty and did all the small condo type things, a few of these houses here, and then they stopped. They didn't continue and do this part here and across the estate houses. And so with this as the bait, the estate homes, and then we got smaller, it was kind of disappointing to not see them finish it off. So the design and everything for Lake Park and Highbury was for the 158 homes to go in here, not however many with the apartments and everything that's existing. So for the roads to handle it, and then the charter school came in after and caused even more of a problem with the stacking, that drop off and pickup that is really takes it down to one lane. It is very hard to get through there when school's getting in and out. So I wouldn't want to go anything on this property more than like the 160 units, period. I think this is just way overbuilt. So much rental is another problem. The apartments, the housing, we need home ownership. And these smaller homes on smaller lots would take care of that affordable housing in this area. And so I think limiting it to like 160, like this is what it's zoned for right now, makes more sense to have home ownership, smaller, less expensive homes. And so seeing what was presented at the very beginning and then not having it completed like it was, it feels to me like a bait and switch. And I know it's not the same property owners, but.
Steve, does that Ivory concept, does that show Monticello there? Is Monticello there in 2008?
So this is the school right here, and going way back, the idea was they would have like a
High school.
field, and that would be an expansion of the school, but that won't happen.
Because that could take the stacking, if we went back to that plan, it would take the stacking maybe off of Lake Park and put it in that subdivision.
Yeah, where it has the,
As that connecting road.
and the homes to the south there, that's the sides of them, not the fronts. So if they did stack in there, but I wouldn't want that with the current layout. That would be far too many people.
But I know you said this, but how many units total with apartments, townhomes?
And so yeah, the total under this is 368.
Including all of the apartments.
Correct. That's everything.
Yeah.
So just again, the proposal in 24, 2024 was 435. The planning commission rejected, and this one is 368.
And
How
this
does-
just, go ahead, Lars.
How
Sorry.
does the parking ratio compare to Pinnacle?
So in this case, off the cuff, I don't recall the mix, like
Parking count.
count.
Right.
Like, so if you look at all the product that, so the apartments and the townhomes, excluding the single family homes, and the reason we exclude the single families, they'll have their own parking charge. The code would require 951 stalls total. That's like townhomes, the driveways, all that. And there's 1,045. So they have quite a bit of a cushion between the code requirements and what's shown in the concept. The other thing I point out, one of the challenges we have with Pinnacle had to do with them charging for parking. So in fact, that Pinnacle is what caused us to change our code.
Yes.
Because essentially what happened is you drive through the development and see open parking, but people would use it because they were being charged extra to move in the space. So we now have in the code that you can't charge for parking outside of the rent, right? You're basically, just when you pay rent, you're paying.
And do the apartments have, is it all open parking? Do they have any underground parking?
It's all surface.
Okay, on surface.
Will has a question.
Will?
Thank you. I apologize if you mentioned this already, Steve, but on the HOA, are they creating a separate one or adjoining the existing HOA?
My understanding is that the townhome development, the 4 set townhomes would have what would be their own HOA. And then the existing single family homes, the applicant can correct me, but I don't know if there's a need for one there because they will be accessing an existing public street. So probably wouldn't be needed there. But if they wanted to make them part of the association to like help pay for the pool and clubhouse, they could, but it's not necessarily a requirement.
In this case.
On Highbury itself, that subdivision has its own HOA. And then there's the all-encompassed HOA for the whole development as well.
Correct. One thing I'll point out here too, this is another point that was discussed with the planning commission. So this concept does show a public park here, small kind of pocket park, and the idea from the applicant was that could be a benefit not only for these homes, but for the existing owner. In talking with parks, they were not just taking ownership of something this small, and so it doesn't preclude the applicant from making that accessible. It just wouldn't be able to maintain.
And internally, how much grass area is it? Is it just the pool that's recreation?
So overall, the code requires that. So taking this percentage excludes the single family.
Right.
If you look at everything else, they would have at least 50% of the site would be what's called landscaping recreation space. So that includes things like the farmhouse, landscaping, those kinds of things.
But they're not counting the landscaping in the parking, correct?
Sorry, which area?
In the parking, they're not counting that.
Well, the land. So any landscaping does count towards that 50%.
Yeah.
Although that I would say the landscaping part is pretty in terms of like square footage.
Yeah, I guess I'm asking what functional green space is there?
Yeah, so it would be
That you could pickleball.
You've got the pickleball courts, clubhouse, pool. All of this there is kind of the central area here. And then notice a little misleading because this is a small plan, but this is actually a pretty large setback here on the west side, and then some of these pockets here are large here.
Okay. And I think being gray makes them just look like parking instead of green space. Okay, I don't see anything from Tom or Will having any more questions. Any more questions from the council?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Leah. I don't have any questions right now, but it's studying it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, so I didn't know if the applicant wanted to come up and clarify anything, or does the council have any questions for the applicant? So no questions from the council. If the applicant has anything that Mr. Pastrick may have misrepresented or need to clarify, take a couple minutes and do that.
Thank you, full council. Only thing I'd add, Steve did a great job. Only thing I'd add is there was traffic impacts, and we didn't get a new one, but the one that was conducted would be sufficient.
Okay. And can you give us your name and?
Yes, my name is Chris Toronto, the address.
No, just what business you're with.
With Wasatch Group or Wasatch Acquisition Capital.
Thank you.
Yes, any other questions?
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Okay. Seeing nothing else, we'll continue with the Pastrick Show and go to application ZT6 2025. Jordan River Overlay.
Ask one more. I know you moved. Is there anything that I could provide for your meeting next week to help clarify any other concerns?
No, I think you're good.
Thank
So this is a proposal by city staff to make a change to our zoning ordinance. So we have had the Georgia River overlay zone since '98, and fast forward to 2017, we did a overhaul to the zoning ordinance. We did a lot of cleanup at the time. The idea was there were sections of the code that were very subjective. We had duplication. And so we tried to go through as part of that cleanup in 2017 and just do an overall cleanup. At the time, we did that cleanup in 2017. The city was involved in litigation on property that's within the Georgia River. And so because of that, we didn't want to muddy the water and change the code at the time, so we just left it as it was. Now, after many, many years, and to Eric's pleasure, we are now done with that litigation. And so we really are just, this is really a cleanup item to address this particular section code to get rid of redundancy and get rid of language that is either subjective or in some cases just, we'd like you to do this, or, maybe you can do that sort of thing. So, this, just as a reminder, this slide shows the extent of the Georgia River business. That won't change. It really is just doing cleanup. So the intent here really isn't to change the standards, but more have the standards be really aligned with everything else that's in the code. So let me give you an example. We have standards in there about landscaping and parking and design requirements that now are addressed in other sections of the code. Since this was put in place back in the late 90s, we've had many other changes to the code that now address the area in this code. It has a section on appeals. Now we have a section that deals with appeals just across the board. So it really is just the fact that this was not updated back in 2017 and because of the litigation. So again, I'm happy to get into more of the weeds if you'd like, but it really is more of a cleanup item than anything else.
Any questions from the council? So is this the original boundaries? Because I noticed is the Veterans Hall or Veterans Memorial not in this overlay zone?
Yeah, so this is, and I have to go back and do some research. I think the original one didn't extend all the way to Redwood, but down in this area, yes, this was the original boundary. I think at some point we had an expansion in this direction.
So it had naturally carved out the memorial anyway. Okay. So I don't see any concerns. I don't see any online. Okay, thank you. All right, we'll go to our resolutions and we'll turn the time over to Chief Evans for resolution 26-24, execution of a cooperative agreement.
This agreement comes about every year. It's with the Fire Forestry State Lands. What this is, by saying this, we do some mitigation work. When I say we, probably 90% is Public Works and dam. Some mitigation efforts along the river and other places. With us doing that, we signed this agreement. If we have a wildland fire, this agreement says that the Forest Service will come in and assist us with no charge. For instance, I'll tell you, a helicopter drop with a bucket is about $25,000. So by us doing this, that's free. They don't send us. So it's a cooperative agreement. All of those. I think we've signed up for the last probably 5 years.
Is the part of the maintenance, the fragway being taken down?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's like
What about these guys?
should have been
So the investment in that piece of equipment is will save us money if there's ever a
Oh.
fire. Yeah.
It'll save us a lot of money if there's a fire.
Okay, any questions from the council? Okay, thank you. All right, we'll now turn the time over to Mr. Johnson for web design and support services contract.
Hello, Mayor and Council. We mentioned this last week, but we are in the process of going through potentially a new website for West Valley City. This, we have had 58 RFPs returned to us of wanting to take on the work. And as I mentioned, one of them was for $15 million to do our website. In the best interest of the city, I recommend we don't sit down.
Does that include a new city hall?
Included on.
Just true.
This is kind of a little review of how our website has changed over the past 2 decades. It was an in-house design back in 2007, before 2007, and then we switched to Civic Plus. Civic Plus is a large government website provider company. They are very good in security. They have a very fairly pleasing look to their websites, but you know it when you see it with Civic Plus. We kept with them for a while, and we've hit a point where we think it's time to move on from Civic Plus for a variety of reasons. One of them is that their price kept going up. We've been battling for a few years on fighting the price. We've seen that change now, especially with their latest proposal. So out of those 58, we went through a variety of things, everything from ability to meet ADA compliance, which is now a federal law that's happening this spring, that makes it easy for people that have, whether it's eye issues, hearing issues, all of that, we have to be ADA compliant this spring. And so we've worked very hard on that. Other cities are scrambling right now. One of the things that was a big issue for us is this new website has to do that. And the ones that we looked at would. So the other things that we did, we had part of the proposal, they need to come up with a schedule that we were able to judge if they were able to do it in time, the quality of their portfolio, an AI-powered search, and cost, competitiveness, and value. These were the 3 companies that we settled on based on those criteria. Revise, they do government websites, but they have a variety of designs which we have not seen from other government companies. They were able to do the accessibility, and their price was on the lower end of everybody that we looked at by a fairly decent margin. Planetaria was interesting. They have a lot of experience in all of it, but their designs were more static and did not have a variety. It felt more like a government website. TANDEV had very little government experience, but they had beautiful websites, and we appreciated their designs. They didn't provide really any ongoing information on how much the website would continue and cost to operate moving forward. So I am coming to you. Here are some of the different designs. The Planetaria one, as you see, is a static design similar to what we have, which is a nice look, but we're trying to take it kind of to that next level of government websites. The TANDEV was beautiful. We just had a lot of concerns about, well, first off, what was it going to cost moving forward, which they did not provide, but also could they handle the security issues that we need met for a government website. Revise met all of those. And the design we felt was one that was fun, interactive, but also kept a lot of the structure that our current website has for people to be able to find things. We would just want to make it easier. So there will be AI involved in this to help people find their pages. The search features should be much better than what we currently have as well. The cost, so as we looked at staying with Civic Plus, the cost was going to go up on annual maintenance up to, if I remember right, up to 30,000 and beyond. The revised company has locked us in at about 21,000 a year for the next 4 years, which is a pretty fantastic number based on everything that we've seen moving forward. So that is our recommendation. We had a website redevelopment team that went through it, and then we presented it to EFO and to John. And our recommendation is to go with revised moving forward. This website will be ready October 1st, as long as we go through the approval process and everything. That's the plan. Are there any questions?
Councilman Whitestone has a question.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I was just curious that the AI search technology would include searches on zoning or code enforcement, or somebody had a question on whether or not something was allowed. They could easily type it in, non-zoning language and be able to identify where that regulation is kept.
that is a great idea. I do not know the answer, but I will follow up for you, Councilman. Thank you for that. And I'm sorry, did you have another question?
No, thank you.
Thank you for that suggestion. Councilmember Harmon, thank you for your idea on, I do not have that for you. I will get that for you within the next week of the top viewed pages of our website. Thank you. As I mentioned, for those that did not hear our website in the past, the top views have been, or the top searches are often our police and fire pages, which they have their own pages within our website. But pools and pets are very popular searches.
So are they asking how many pets they can have? Or just in general questions about pets?
I think it's a lot of adoptions.
Okay,
And
makes
understand.
sense. Cool.
And employment, I know, is always the top, but I'll get that list.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, with these two resolutions, would you like to move any or all to the consent agenda for the March 10th meeting, regular meeting?
I think it'd be okay to take these separately.
Yeah, because we don't have anything else on
There's
the
only
consent. Yeah. Okay. All right, we'll now go to our communications. We have our fraud risk assessment. So I'll turn the time over to Councilmember Norfelt as the chair of the audit committee.
Thank you. Yes, our audit committee met this month to receive the report from our external auditors, and I have the report here as part of our annual comprehensive financial report. I'll leave this in my mailbox if anyone wants to borrow it for some good reading or a doorstop. You can also access this online and read about it. But they are CPAs at KNC. They worked very hard for months going through our books and reviewing our processes, and kudos to our team here. They didn't find any there were no findings that gave them concern, and our team has some wonderful policies in place, and they're being followed, and it was a clean audit again this year. So good job to Jim and the whole staff, actually. So Jim's going to go through the fraud risk assessment form that we have to do every year for the state auditors. But nice work, Jim.
Thank you, appreciate it. It's interesting. Our audit committee, the city hasn't always had an audit committee, and it's relatively new in the operations of the city. And there was some debate as to whether we should set one up, the benefit that would be involved with it. But I think it's been very beneficial. It's nice to have the elected officials and the others that volunteer to serve on the committee to help us make sure that we have some objective eyes and the opportunity to sit down and go over the audit in detail. We do take this very seriously, as Mr. Nordfeld mentioned. The handling of public funds is very sensitive and it's very important, and the tone of auditing, control, and watching after the assets of the city is something that we do take very seriously and that the public takes seriously. So the fraud risk assessment was actually composed by the state auditor's office, and they used a couple of resources for putting this together. One is the COSO, or the Committee of Sponsoring Organizations of the Treadway Commission, and they put together standards and guidelines for detecting fraud, abuse, and waste. And then they also drew together what's called the Green Book, and that's by the Government Accounting Office. And they, with that information, they put together this list of items that we do each year to review and make sure that at least we have the basics of internal control. So the first item, and I think, yep, I'm over the top of that. Can you move? There we go. The first item has to do with internal controls, and is there a separation of internal controls? Most fraud that occurs in public organizations, and all organizations for that matter, has to do with lack of separation of controls. So on the score that they give for this survey, they award 200 points for each of the items that are included in that in internal control. Now, internal control refers to the separation of duties. So making sure that the person that receives the cash is not the same person that does the accounting entries. They also make sure that the person that's receiving the cash or making the accounting entries can't write off funds or make adjustments to customers' accounts. They also make sure that if you're reconciling the bank accounts, you're not the same person that's receiving the cash. So it all has to do with separation of responsibilities. In all of these items, we do have controls, we have procedures in place to make sure that we have adequate separation of duties. In some instances, we may have people that, for example, receive cash at the fitness center or at some of our other entities out there. We try and provide them with training, we'll provide them with support, and then we also require reports from them that come to our treasurer's office, where who's responsible for receiving all funds that come into the city can review those transactions. If there's any kind of discrepancy between the bank accounts and the deposits that comes in and the reports that they send us, they're immediately notified and we ask for a written response. And so they're very good about that. If there's continuing issues where we see problems with where the statements don't reconcile, we will ask for a corrected plan, and they provide that to us. So as far as basic separation of duties, we feel like we do pretty well there. The other items have to do with things like, for example, our governing body. Do we have conflicts of interest? And Eric just went over ethics training, I think it's just a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about disclosure, areas where we might have a conflict of interest. Our procurement processes, are we able to track all of the purchases that we make? We have a statement of ethical behavior. We train our employees to not only be ethical in their own transactions, but also look for ethical behavior according to their own with their peers. So it's about creating that sense of overview, that culture of trustworthiness, and also looking in a critical eye at the way that we handle things, so we minimize that risk. We have policy set up for each one of these items. We have a way to report fraud and abuse, and that's down there on Number 7, they feel like having a fraud hotline is very important. According to the state auditor's office, 40% of the fraud that is detected is done through hotlines. So it's that important with us. We do have a hotline that shows up on our front page. If you go to our website, you can report anonymously. That hotline has an immediate response by an email that comes to both the city attorney and myself. We review those and we investigate those with the appropriate agency in the city, and then we report those if we have them come up with our audit committee when we have our meetings. In the last year, we did not have any instances that were reported that needed to be reported to the audit committee. I'm sort of pleased to say, and I say sort of because I want to make sure that nothing's happening out there that would be untoward with public funds. But we haven't really had anything come up in our hotline. The items that have come in and been reported have typically been complaints with human resource issues, or somebody is dissatisfied with the way another employee was treated. Those are still also investigated and looked at, especially with the city attorney's office or HR, and they have not come to the level where we felt like they needed to be addressed with further action or reporting to the audit committee. So thank you very much. On the score, we feel like we do comply with all of the items that are on here, and I must say that this is expected to be a baseline or a basis for internal control, so it's not expected to be the end-all be-all. So just because we get everything here doesn't mean that we're doing everything possible that we can to detect fraud from happening. We want to preserve employees' jobs. We want to preserve the integrity of the city and the elected officials. That's why this exists, and we go above and beyond these controls. We didn't score a perfect score. A perfect score would be 395 points, and we scored a 375, and that's because we do not have a formal employee as an internal auditor. We do have mitigating controls that we actually have in our accounting department. We do perform the internal audit function where we go out and we regularly audit cash. We audit the procedures that all the transactions that occur. We just felt like in the discussions with our city manager and with our audit committee that given the procedures and the mitigating controls we have, we really couldn't justify hiring somebody to come and do that. So with that, we present the fraud risk assessment to you. After this presentation and this review, the city manager and myself will sign an acknowledgement that we reviewed it and this is accurate to the best of our knowledge, and we'll turn that into the state auditor's office.
Any questions for Mr. Welch? You guys do a great job every year, so thank you.
We sure try. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll turn the time over to Ms. Young for the Parks Master Plan update.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I would like to turn the time over and introduce you to Lisa Benson. She is our project manager from Landmark Design. She's been our champion for getting this master plan, Parks and Recreation master plan completed, and has been keeping us on task and following up on things and has performed a lot of surveys. So she's going to go through kind of what we've done already, where we're at, kind of what their preliminary recommendations are. And then in the next probably 30 days or so, we'll have an opportunity to review the total plan as staff, and then we'll bring it to you once we kind of have the final plan reviewed. But for right now, I'll turn the time over to Lisa, and then we will be available for questions at the end if you have questions throughout the presentation, but at the end as well.
Okay, thank
Lisa,
you.
coming up. You can just scroll through the plan with your arrows there.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. We're really excited to give you a briefing on where we're at with the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And I'll fly through some of these slides so we can spend a little more time on some of the ones that are a little more detailed. But as Jamie mentioned, we're in the draft plan development stage, and we plan to have that to staff by the end of March, and then we'll go through reviews and get that out to leadership to review and give you a more detailed briefing. So the plan will begin with an introduction where we look at demographics, all that background information. We have some key core elements, Parks and Rec, arts, trails, those sorts of elements. We are doing a high level look at the Parks and Rec operations, and then we have an implementation chapter at the end that will pull it all together with costs and actions. One of the community engagement processes for this planning effort was a community survey. It was a statistically valid survey conducted by Y2 Analytics. There were 600 survey responses. You can see the distribution of responses throughout the community on the colored map there by council district, and we had a 4% margin of error. I'll just go through a couple of key results from that survey. So right now, the community generally somewhat or strongly agrees that the city provides adequate parks and recreation opportunities and facilities. You can see there at 56%, somewhat or strongly agreeing with jobs the city is doing right now. And it's really important for residents to have parks within walking distance of home. You can see here that 74% of residents prefer to have a park close to home that they can get to easily. We had a hypothetical budget question where we asked residents to allocate $100 to their top priorities. And you can see the results here. Safety measures, increasing safety measures in parks and recreation spaces, and then also providing new facilities, amenities, open spaces. But right under that is also increasing the maintenance and making improvements to your existing facilities. So those are kind of really strong priorities that stood out from community members. When we asked about specific facilities here, you can see, probably not a surprise, splash pad, additional parks and dog parks and additional restrooms are of interest to the community, kind of in that top tier. And then we also touched on connectivity. And the bulk of residents feel a little connected, and they're definitely interested in feeling more connected to the city and then also to their neighborhood. And we did have some additional follow-up questions to that. And some of the items that teased out of that, for those that don't feel connected, people want to have more events, and they also want to have more connectivity, walking and biking paths. And so that spills over a lot into parks and recreation in general. You can see there, citywide, there's a concern about traffic being an issue for connectivity in the community. And this ties back into the results of the POV survey that was conducted in 2025 as well. Again, safety, maintenance, those are top concerns for residents, but then also wanting to see additional amenities and some connectivity issues throughout the community. And then looking at kind of top priorities of residents, again, beautification and cleanliness, but city parks and open spaces fell kind of within that top tier, within that survey as well. So it is important, and it's helpful to see some consistency from the community through those results. As I mentioned, demographics, we take a look at this usually to see where you're at and where you're projected to go. Because you're almost built out, population projections are a little bit tamer than we see in a lot of communities along the Wasatch Front. So you can see by 2050, you should be around 159,000 residents. You are aging, and you can see the graph there on your median age, and then also the percentage of youth in community is declining over time. So that just tells us that we need to balance resources within the parks and recreation system to meet a variety of needs. Looking at the parks and open space system, we got into a lot of mapping and analysis with your existing park system and going out and inventorying all of your parks and the individual amenities within those. And then as part of that, we conducted a park conditions assessment. So we went out to each park and assessed the site furnishings, playgrounds, even landscaping and looking at conditions on site, what recommendations are. So we scored everything. And out of that, we've come up with a list of tier 1 and tier 2 projects and some timeframes associated with those to help address some of the deferred maintenance issues within your existing park system. There are 2 key analyses that we typically do for parks and recreation. One of those is looking at level of service, and that's a ratio of park acres per 1,000 residents. We typically only include your traditional parks, regional, community, neighborhood, and local parks as part of that, and also parks that the city owns and controls. We have some linear parks within the city that don't necessarily meet traditional recreation needs. And then the county parks also help supplement needs, definitely. But since the city doesn't control those, we don't necessarily look at that as part of the city level of service. So when we calculate out your existing park level of service, with your current population and your park acreage, you're sitting at 1.6 acres per 1,000 residents. And the first question that usually follows that is, where do we sit in relationship to other communities? And you can see in the chart on the left that you're at the bottom of this particular list, but it's not too surprising because you are so built out, and it's really common as communities continue to build out and develop, that level of service tends to drop because you have so many competing resources that you're trying to direct to a lot of different areas. But that said, it is definitely pretty low, and so moving forward, we settled on a future park service ratio of 2.4 acres per 1,000 residents. So we're trying to bump it up a little bit, but not go extreme. Some communities kind of make recreation their main focal point, and so they'll really bump it up, like St. George, for example. But using 2.4 acres per 1,000 people into the future, if we look out to 2035 and take your existing acres out of that total need, you would need 142.3 additional park acres to bring the city up to that 2.4 standard. But as shown in the chart on the bottom of this slide, you already have 95.9 acres of planned parks. So this is land that the city already owns, so that's a big cost savings. You just need to dedicate that money to develop those out. But beyond the 95.9, the city still does need an additional 46.4 acres to help meet that level of service by 2035. And I should mention too that this is just aspirational. It's not, this plan doesn't hold you to meeting that. This is just something to target, and this plan is hopefully expressing that vision of where the community wants to go. So meeting needs between 2035 and 2050, you would need another 12.5 acres of parkland by that time. This was an interesting assessment of the city. We broke it down by district, by council district. And so we looked at the number of parks, park acres, residents per park acre. So that first column in orange, you can see park district or council district number 2 has nearly 4,000 residents per park acre. And that's significantly different from the other council districts. And that's second column in orange, the park level of service. So that's that LOS ratio of, park acres per 1,000 residents. You can see again how significantly lower that number is for District 2. You can see that Districts 1 and 4 are also fairly low. They're both at 1. And then in that final column, you see how the county parks kind of bump into that, because we recognize that there are a lot of county parks that do supplement the needs. That just kind of brings that into play and helps paint the picture of how that supplements those parks and recreation needs. And District 3 is doing very well. We also look at distribution. So again, that's bringing in that factor of having parks close to home. People like to have parks that they can walk or take a quick drive if they need to. So this looks at park distribution, and this is so local parks have a 1/4 mile radius, neighborhood parks have a 1/2 mile, community parks have 1 mile, and then regional parks have a 2 mile radius. Anything that's shown in dark gray here is a residential area that doesn't have access within one of those service radii to a park. So you can see again, District 2 has some significant gaps and some pretty big needs. That's followed by District 1 and then District 4 beyond that. So when we factor in those currently planned parks, that's on that chart I was telling you, the 95.9 acres. When we develop all of those out, you can see the difference between those two maps, how that really helps fill in the gap. So it's really critical to get those parks constructed, but you can still see the gaps within District 2 and District 1 in particular. So we are proposing some additional community parks and neighborhood parks to help supplement that need. And this also looks at some of the barriers, because you are divided by 3 major north-south, freeway, highway. So that's part of it too. We're trying to make sure that people have parks within walkable distance of their homes. So the plan dives into park standards as well. So this kind of sets an aspirational minimum for the different park types. It's not saying every park should look the same or have the same amenities. This is just trying to give you a baseline. This is also really important when you have private developers coming in and wanting to provide a park to the city. So this gives you some guidelines to base some of those conversations on. And then we also looked at community level service, you know, how many residents per basketball court or how many residents per pickleball court and what those needs are out to 2035. And we didn't want to go out beyond that because we know that recreation interests change rapidly. So going 10 years out is enough at this point. Another consideration we're looking at is amenity distribution. You know, not just how many amenities citywide, but where are they located and how are these accessed in some of these concerns. We're doing the same for recreation facilities, looking at where those amenities are and making sure that everybody can be served. Recreation, we're also taking a look at some of your programming and how that's trending, what the capacities are. And then the survey is really helpful for this aspect to hear about what people want to see in the future for additional programs, community events, and arts and cultural amenities and facilities as well. So we're looking at distribution of those facilities and again, what the community interest is moving forward with some of those. Trails, we have a proposed trail network here. So this documents your existing and proposed trails. And what we've done is create a network of regional trails. And those are shown in those the darker red. This is kind of the spine of your network. And then the pink trails show connections to neighborhoods and to parks within your neighborhood. So that gives that fine-grained, you know, local trail network. And it's not always going to be a separated trail. Sometimes it's just going to be a sidewalk with maybe a sign up to help people understand, you know, where the parks are, where they're at, and just give a little more wayfinding to the community so they know about your resources. So you can see right now the city has 35 miles of existing trails, and this plan is proposing an additional 49.2 for a total of over 84 miles of build out. But again, some of those might not be full-blown trails. And then implementation. So kind of big picture takeaways that we're looking at, you know, addressing those safety and maintenance concerns by residents, balancing upgrades to parks with the development of new parks and amenities. So people want to see some love giving to what you have, but also balance that with continuing to make, you know, those future needs, make sure you're balancing that with the future demands. And that goes along with filling gaps and then facilitating connection. So these are just a few costs extracted from what we're developing for the implementation chapter, looking at filling gaps. So we have developing planned parks in District 2, acquiring and developing the proposed parks in District 2 and District 1, again, kind of some of those high needs areas, facilitating connections. Addressing safety and maintenance issues that can come through addressing the lighting upgrades that we're recommending for your park system and those come out of that conditions assessment that we conducted. Some of those parks have needs to upgrade what you have and some additional lighting. And then we also are recommending some lighting and safety improvements along trails, and those are typically recommended along your regional trails, those more major trails. And as part of this project, we also brought on an architect to conduct a facilities assessment. And so Sperron and Mooney Architects went and visited, I think, 6 facilities total. So fitness center, the cultural center, the pools, the golf courses. And so they have specific tiers of improvements that came out of their study as well. So implementing their level 1 improvements, you can see the general cost for that. And then upgrades for new parks and amenities, you can see meeting park standards and some of those key. So there is some continuity between what we're recommending for park standards, what came out of the amenity level of service, and then also what people are requesting in the survey. So you can see splash pads, dog parks, and restrooms. Those are needed to bring parks up to standard and meet amenities level of service, and they're also of high interest to the community. And the tier 1 projects that came out of our park conditions assessment, those are ones that we're recommending to be dealt with maybe as soon as possible if you can. And then there's another tier that we're recommending that you try to tackle within the next 5 years. And just a little more detail on the playground out of that conditions assessment. Just looking at playgrounds, for example, these are some of the ones that were of top concern. And when it comes to the tier 1 projects for the park conditions assessment. I think just that for some pretty significant deferred maintenance in some of those parks. So there are a lot of balancing needs and concerns. We understand that, but we're hoping to kind of give you a big picture understanding of everything in the system and maybe a way to start tackling some of that. So, and we'll have all of this wrapped into a plan for you to use. So, thank you. And if you have any additional questions.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions from the council?
It doesn't look like this is including the 3 buildings we just purchased, church buildings that could be park use also.
I think we did include the acreage at the Lighthouse Church, the park acreage. We did not include them as recreation facilities because that's not necessarily their primary purpose. But we did include the park acreage at the Lighthouse CRC. It's not a church anymore. It's a community resource center. I need to change that in my head.
There are a lot more costs beyond this. This is just a few of the key ones to start tackling.
And we added the playground specifically because that was a topic of conversation at the retreat over the weekend. And so I wanted to make sure that we talked about some of the specific playgrounds that we would certainly take on as top priorities to get the level of maintenance up to where we want it to be in the parks. These are geographically spread through the city as well.
Can you remind me what district has the lowest level of service?
That's yours, sir.
Oh man.
No,
That's all I'm going to say.
Great. I think this is great. A lot of good information. I'm looking forward to seeing what you recommend for priority. I mean, we all know that it needs attention.
You know, and as we went through this, when we first started the process, we had a lot of conversations with Craig about his department and the cultural center because it really definitely ties in. I mean, they're not part of our department, but what he does and what we do are so closely tied in the facility that he has as another public facility. So we did include that with the art and the programming that happens at the cultural center, but that's also a park. So it really is a little bit more than Parks and Recreation, but we thought that was an important piece to add. It's certainly part of what we do, and so much of our interaction with residents is a lot of crossover with neighborhood services and the CRCs and what we do as well.
So in the final report, will we have all of our vacant land that are planned for parks and what is recommended at each one?
As far as amenities, we not necessarily specifically at each park, but kind of a general, these are amenities that we probably need more of, and then we'll determine where the best place is based on the regional distribution of those amenities. So if we need 7 more basketball courts, we're not going to necessarily put them all at Rock property. We'll spread them through the other development so that we can meet that level of service, but have it spread throughout the council districts.
And then did we look at programming the green space at the cultural center?
We have over the years a little bit. The grass is not necessarily a sports surface. We have other opportunities for programming there, but sports is hard on the grass. The water table is so high it's often very squishy.
Oh, too squishy.
Yeah. So the cultural center grounds is not a great place for recreation. But as we develop some of the other park space that we currently have, there will be a lot of opportunity for that.
And then out by Diamond Summit, I saw that Diamond Summit is the dark gray, but we have Lodestone right next to it. So I was wondering why the county park would not backfill that because I don't see a need for a city park next to a huge county park. So why that was all dark.
Yeah, we actually do have more maps that factor in the county parks and kind of layer that in. So yeah, we're trying not to duplicate that, and if we kind of have any overlap, we'll make sure to avoid these areas.
Okay. So in the final, we'll have more comprehensive.
There's a lot
showing that that's really not a dark space. Okay.
Yeah, and there were 2 distribution maps. One that included the city or the county park. So the previous one did not, and then the other one included the county parks. The
Second one shows
including
it.
Lodestone, and yeah. So that one did include the county parks as well. This did not include anything with the schools that we've had conversations about, because of course that's not something that that's a done deal. But that would help in some of these areas as well, in some of the districts that are underserved, like Mr. Herman.
Well, but District 2, I've hung out at Academy Park. We've played at the school properties, and whether we're supposed to or not. So it's not like we're feeling bad for ourselves and sitting in our in our
The
houses
ones
not
we
wanting.
chased off.
Huh?
You're the one chased off.
But we have a great space in your district that we want to get developed.
Yeah, Brocksfield would be great to develop, and our neighbors would love that. And they keep asking when it's going to be developed, and so I keep saying I hope before other parks. But let's see.
Well, I know.
Based on this, it shows that you have an area of need, certainly.
So one of the parks, I'm trying to remember, was like acquired in 1999. Is it going to have a priority over the ones that were acquired?
That's the
I think
that's
that's
the Maple
the
Meadows
Maple Meadows that's adjacent
acre
to the
that's
Brock
adjacent
property.
to
It's a
Brock.
tiny little maybe quarter acre.
Okay.
Oh, it's
Is it?
yeah, like 0.6.
Is it a half?
It's bigger than a
So
quarter.
much.
Okay.
Double a quarter.
It's way bigger. But I don't know. It's kind of in a weird place, and small. Those half acre parks are quite expensive, on the per acre cost to develop. But having this now, we definitely will develop it in conjunction with the Brock property.
Okay. Because I just think, the ones that have been waiting a lot longer than the new acquisitions, just because the new acquisitions are louder, I don't think they should just be done first. I think they need to be done kind of in the order that the subdivisions were finished. But that's just my.
That's why we're having independent person
Yeah.
give our
And I think
priorities.
we'll take all that into consideration when we acquired it, but also the areas of the city with the biggest need that have fewer amenities in them. But certainly acquisition of the property is an element of what we would choose to move forward with first.
And the plan will recommend some policies like establishing a minimum park size. We typically recommend 3 acres minimum so that it's a lot easier for maintenance, making it more efficient to go around to those properties. And then also recommending acquisition as soon as possible, even if, some of these parks you have to sit on for a few years. You're always saving yourself a lot of money in the long run to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I don't see anybody else raising their hand, so. Okay, we'll turn the time over to Mr. Johnson for our legislative update. While he's walking up, Sam's been doing a really good job being up to the Capitol, meeting with the league quite often, so thank you for all your hard work.
I appreciate that, Mayor. Thank you. I appreciate you when you come up and are always available by text and phone calls. We have 8 days to go in the session. The final day is next Friday, which is March 6th. We currently have 598 House bills and 326 Senate bills. That is a lot. I've read through every single one of these. I wanted to go over just a few of them. I know we don't have a ton of time, so I'll go through a few. Feel free to jump in and ask any questions. One that does affect us is House Bill 366. It's a courts bill. What the courts have done over the past 6 months is they changed how they handle all of the appeals and handle Class A misdemeanors. And that's the one that affects West Valley City. So all of these misdemeanors that are coming out, there are a lot. We have basically double what all the other cities combined have, who deal primarily in Class B and C. The courts have made it so that in the past, we've been able to do all of our cases, have all of our cases heard at a specific courthouse with 2 or 3 judges. We're able to go through all of those. It's easy to plan. It works out well. That has changed to be where we now have 30 judges that are hearing our cases all over at 2 different courthouses. We would end up having to hire a couple more prosecutors to be able to handle this. We sought the support, and Representative Tusher came out with a bill that would fix this problem. All of the other cities were trying to work out a deal potentially with the courts so that this bill would not be needed for them, but for us, it would still be needed because the courts made it very clear this had nothing to do with Class A misdemeanors. So they cut us out of it completely. As it came out, other cities started getting charged, things started happening. Cities started supporting West Valley City in our efforts, and now that bill passed through the House, which was great news. It's now in the Senate with a very strong Senate supporter of us and of this bill. This bill would fix those problems. Right now, we're just waiting for it to go through Senate. So things turned around really well for us on that. That's a good one. Another one was House Bill 79, which was government immunity for first responders. This is one that was taken away, that immunity was taken away about a year or two ago. It's now, which is a great effect for our first responders who could get sued and have a lot of issues with that. This bill fixed that, and it did pass, which is great for our first responders. So a couple other ones just to go through. Senate Bill 262 was a bill to prohibit the use of unmarked police cars for traffic violations. As you can tell, police did not appreciate this bill. It did fail. So I know that police and highway patrol are very happy about that. House Bill 241. There's so many bills. Let me look at that one. I'll come back to that. Some of the truth and taxation type bills. Okay, this is a question for all of you scholars. How many Representative Petersons are there in the House? There are 75 representatives. How many have the last name Peterson?
Oh, okay. 15.
Oh, that would be amazing. I would love that so much. It's 4. And their truth and taxation, there are 2 Representative Petersons that are working to try to figure out the truth and taxation. So the idea behind this bill is the representatives and our legislators are very concerned that our public is not aware of everything that's happening with councils and with truth and taxation. Their concern is that it happens so late in the process, the decision has been made. So having people come out in August, the decision's made, it doesn't matter anymore. They're fighting to change that date so that we have 2 of those, one in August, but one earlier. One of the bills wants to do it as early as April 1st. There are many problems with having an April 1st truth and taxation that it just may not be ready to be able to be looked at and be able to be discussed. They're pushing it back to, it's looking like sometime in late May, and then have the one in August. That one, they're trying to work out their concerns, both of them, both representatives. It'll probably come out in a combined bill. Whether or not it'll be passed, that's a different question. But I think it probably will go through in some. So you might have 2 truth and taxation meetings. One of the ideas, too, is that this would be the only meeting planned for the day. It could not be combined with other public meetings.
So, Sam,
Yes.
will they be able to get us the certified tax rate by the 1st of May so we can do that?
I do not believe that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think the assessor wants to even try to do that.
So that is, as the mayor points out, that is a big challenge, and it's driving them crazy, the legislators, and they're trying to figure out what to do. So who knows how that will end up.
Work harder, faster.
They just may try to push it back to June 1st, but then have another one in August, and there's issues.
They still don't usually have it till the end of June. I mean, yeah.
It's
Anyway.
gonna be fun to watch if it happens. So those are all great points, so thank you. Senate Bill 211 is a tricky, brutal bill for the cities. This is a torts bill. The idea behind this is if you end up having an accident and the person that is involved in the accident wants to sue the city for the accident, the hospital bills, so when we get billed as just regular people, we get an initial bill that's often wild. It can be $200,000. What this bill says is that is how that is allowed, and that is what is the focus on it, not the bill that actually becomes reality. So after negotiation, all that bill could come down to $50,000. But what this bill says is you're using the $200,000 bill as being what the city is on the hook for. The city cannot bring into any kind of evidence that the negotiated payment is only 50. that it's $200,000. This has huge ramifications for every city, that we are going to have to pay out the cost of litigation of this being sued based on the initial hospital bill, not the negotiated value of that bill. And we can't even bring into evidence that that bill has changed. So a lot of concerns. To make everyone feel a little better, it was moving along. It's now circled in the Senate. And what that means is a lot of the legislators are now, well, I don't want to say wising up, that's not fair to them, are now seeing the problems with it and have concerns. So they are keeping it as a bill, but it's circled unless they can get the support to bring it out. Some legislators are not really believing the bill because they think it will hurt people that are undocumented, and that it will hurt other people that maybe don't have the means and other challenges. I don't really think that's a thing in this, but that is why there's a lot of they want this bill to go through, and that's one of the challenges. So, Mayor, did you have any? I know that you're kind of aware of this bill. Do you have any thoughts?
I'm too frustrated by this one. I might get myself in trouble if I speak, honestly.
Let's talk after then.
Yeah.
That sounds good. The last one that I kind of want to go over is a big homeless bill has finally come out. We're still reviewing it. It is 1,701 lines long, which if you try to print it out, it's 51 pages. It is a huge bill. It does affect us. There will be ramifications for West Valley City. I am happy to discuss this after. You can see it in the bill. We would become a permanent homeless shelter city. There are some financial benefits to this that we're not currently getting, but we would become a permanent shelter. Right now, and just so that everyone understands why this is happening, there is a campus model that was brought about by Wayne Niederhauser before he left. That campus shelter is very expensive. We have a new homeless czar that's coming on. I think it's Clancy.
Yeah, Clancy.
Clancy's coming on, but he's not finished till the session. He's not starting till the session's over. So the legislature has a problem where they're like, we need to do something in the interim basis, but we don't know if we're going to do the campus shelter or continue on with the scattered shelter. Clancy will come in, make his recommendations over the next 6 months to a year. Next year will be a bigger deal. So what they're looking at with this homeless bill, which they have called, or at least self-called, the homeless bill to end all homeless bills. Right. What they're looking to do potentially is to bridge it for the next year or two while the bigger issue is now worked out by the new homeless czar. A lot of concerns about this bill. It's a messy bill. It really is messy, and they've got 8 days to come up with answers. We're currently in discussions with the League, South Salt Lake, and Salt Lake City to figure out what this means for us and how we can potentially get the funding needed to be able to handle this homeless shelter at the rate that we're doing. And we're doing a great job, but we are underfunded by the mitigation fund. So we're working out ways. Those two are focused on with us because we're becoming a permanent shelter, which we're not getting all the funds that we needed. Those two will have to flex out their shelters to a much bigger rate than they are currently. So we're all in discussions. Hopefully we'll get some more ways to be able to fund this more effectively. So
because being classified as a temporary, we were paying into the mitigation fund, and if you're permanent, you don't pay into the mitigation fund. You get the funds from the mitigation.
That's very right. So we're paying up to $300,000 a year for the wonderful chance to host a homeless shelter. So it is crazy, and
have another one right across our border.
Correct.
Yes.
That bleeds into ours all the time.
Which they rewrote all the rules so that we could do that.
One of the mayors, when she heard that, just about fell off her chair. West Valley City is good. So it is a definite concern for us. I do think there are some positives that can come from it, but there's a lot of work over the next 8 months. So that is all I have. Exciting final 8 days. Any questions or anything that you're wondering that I may be able to answer?
Any questions for Mr. Johnson? Okay. Good job up there. All right, need to make sure I'm not missing anything. Nope. Okay, so council calendar, were there any concerns or questions on the calendar? Seeing none. Potential future agenda items? Any? Nicole has one?
Mayor, we actually have, Mr. Springmeyer has a quick
Oh, okay. Oh, that's
update.
right.
Should be pretty quick.
Okay. We'll make room for Mr. Springmeyer.
Thank you. It will be quick.
Hot
yes.
off the presses.
Yeah, in order to comply with our Utah Open Meetings Act, I'm here to tell you about a future development agreement that will likely be coming to this council, which will, well, at 4 o'clock this afternoon, I was asked to present to the Salt Lake County Council in support of the new county library and Ballet West Academy facility at the current site of our existing library. And I'm happy to announce that that passed unanimously, both the funding and the agreement with Ballet West. So they are moving forward. Stay tuned. We made a huge step today in moving forward to getting the new library and getting Ballet West on that site. It's going to be fantastic for us. So.
And where is
Yes.
the site?
The existing site of the library
Oh,
right over
okay.
here on Lehman. Lancer.
Lancer, yeah. And it'll be 3 stories, but look like 4?
Actually,
Oh, just 2? Oh, okay.
And that was news to me today. The library is going to be about 25,000 square feet, and the ballet will be about 15 or so thousand square feet, but their height will be significantly taller. In jumping and leaping and throwing space. So
Okay,
that's it.
perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other potential future agenda items? You know, any council reports? Don?
Since last meeting, I did attend the Winterfest. I politely declined all the invitations to get out on skates on the ice. Told them I'd given it up for my 80th birthday. I couldn't get my grandkids to get there because they were at hockey practice already. But they had a good crowd there. A lot of good activity going on, a lot of interaction between people who were there and those who were had displays and things like that. Also, yesterday, I attended the Kids Academy ribbon cutting. It's the 3rd part of their company. And Grandma started the company when she needed a daycare for her grandkids. And now her daughters all have one. And good programs, making great use of the bank that used to be on that building, and was a good ribbon cutting.
Good.
A little late, but that wasn't our fault. Chamber forgot their scissors last week.
Somewhere else.
They were somewhere else.
Okay, anyone else?
I've got to hear EFO speak twice. The leadership seminar put on by the city was wonderful. It was great. And then today I went to the Chamber West meeting where EFO spoke again. So you're changing it up a little bit every time. I like it. No, it's great.
Good. Okay, seeing no other reports, we have no need for a closed session. So we just have one more action item. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we stand adjourned. Thank you. We'll see you in the other room at